This is Philadelphia 30th Street Station.
Getting somewhere, especially on a long trip, has been a chore. Through the years, designers and engineers had a job to do, putting ideas on paper to make traveling better over long distances. From passenger comforts to the propulsion that will move us to our destination, it has all evolved, each idea better than the previous one. Through this evolution, things come and go. Sadly, in too many cases, come and go means to be destroyed and scrapped. We're lucky sometimes when some great machine that once took us somewhere manages to cheat against those three words, come and go. And only then do the words sit and wait seem to be so comforting. In South Philadelphia, across the street from the IKEA store and Chick-fil-A restaurant at Pier 82, sits the SS United States. She is indeed sitting and waiting. A workforce in Newport News, Virginia, built her in 1950. Her steam turbine propulsion and many other specifications were laid out by the Navy. Just in case she would be needed to carry U.S. troops, she would need to have enough power to outrun the enemy. In the end, this ocean liner outran everything. The SS United States set the speed record for crossing the Atlantic Ocean in both directions. She was retired in 1968 as people fell in love with flying more so than taking the ship across the ocean. Today, she sits and waits for a better day, and all the while holding on to the Atlantic crossing record. With other forms of passenger travel, we have similar stories. Though not a lot, we still have them. The Greyhound Scenic Cruiser of 1954, a classy beast of a land cruiser that we enjoyed for 20 years. Of the 1001 built, we have a few survivors to experience. The Boeing 747, first flight in February of 1969, was a major development in traveling by air, the heaviest on the ground and the fastest in the air. It's being phased out as of 2017 by more efficient two-engine planes. The 747 has avoided the phrase come and go, still carrying U.S. troops to and from the States. In 1968, this plane was taking shape on paper as the SS United States was being retired in Newport News, Virginia. From that city, if we traveled west for about 243 miles, we'd be in Roanoke, where a marvelous example of traveling by rail had been accumulating 8 years in the sitting and waiting mode. The 611, Norfolk and Western Class J number 611, once part of a group of 14 elegant and powerful locomotives. The 611 is the only survivor. Her 13 sisters were scrapped. Come and go was their fate. But all is not lost. Look closely. She has stamped numbered parts from her sisters who are no longer here. The first batch of 5 Class Js were built in the railroad's own shops in Roanoke in 1941. The second batch of 6 came in 1943. The 611 and the last batch of 3 were built in 1950. Those 3 words, sit and wait, have been kind to this machine, being fortunate to have 3 operating careers so far. The original revenue years on the N&W from 1950 to 1959. A second career pulling public excursions on Norfolk Southern from 1982 to 1994. And a third nudge to wake up came in 2015, when the 611 returned to operating condition following the Fire Up 611 campaign, formed by the Virginia Museum of Transportation in February of 2013. Looking back, the 611 came into this world the same year as the SS United States and has outlived the Greyhound Scenic Cruiser and is hanging on beyond the last years of the 747. In 2019, the 611 would add some very rare mileage to her resume, traveling to Amish country in Pennsylvania. There, the 611 spent 5 weekends on the Strasburg Railroad, the biggest steam engine to run on Strasburg rails, the oldest short-line railroad in the United States. And this included a reunion with an old cousin. Welcome to the Strasburg Railroad, the oldest continuously operating railroad in the Western Hemisphere, along with being the oldest short line in America, chartered in 1832. Located about 338 miles northeast of Roanoke, Virginia, the Strasburg Railroad sits right in the backyard of Philadelphia, just 54 miles away, easily accessible by car or train. Having N&W Class J number 611 sitting beside Class M number 475 in steam, both pulling trains as they once did in Virginia, was like having family members or classmates reunited for the first time in 60 years. Having the 611 here was cleverly thought out and planned as a reunion of Norfolk and Western steam power, with 475 based in Strasburg since 1991. Number 475 called Southwest Virginia home. Built in 1906 by the Baldwin Locomotive Works, number 475 was used to pull freight and coal trains for the Norfolk and Western. She was the 101st of 125 Class M steam engines. But bigger Roanoke-built locomotives replaced them, and the 475 was retired in 1959, completing over 50 years of trusty service. Steam came to an end on the Norfolk and Western through 1959-1960. In 1962, the 475 was put on display in Roanoke, but the locomotive was moved out of Roanoke and saw different owners and locations in the years to follow, including Illinois and Iowa. The Strasburg Railroad purchased the 475 in July of 1991 for $100,000. It was restored to operating condition on November 6, 1993. 300,000 visitors a year come here. And consider the thousands of rail fans that live here and the huge general public numbers that are within an hour or so from here. This means having the 611 at Strasburg will give exposure to Roanoke's finest to a huge new audience. The event was big. Our coverage begins on the last weekend in September. For the 611, this was weekend number 1 of 5 to come, and the masses came out to ride and watch. Number 475 has just completed a round trip to Lehman Place. Here, the 475 will uncouple from the front of the train and run around to the rear car of the train. This is how the 475 will leave the Strasburg station on the next trip. And this all takes about 15 minutes, providing a few minutes to take some pictures. With everyone in the clear and passengers at their seats, it's time to depart on time at the top of the hour. By the way, the 611 and its train are departing Lehman Place and will be here in about 20 minutes. Along the 4-mile journey, there are no less than 20 active farms, and many are Amish-owned and operated. First road crossing brings us up to the Red Caboose Motel. We'll take a look at that in a few minutes. Right now, the 475 is rounding the left-hand curve at Espen Shade Road. The 611 will meet the 475 very soon, just having made the runaround move of her train at Lehman Place. Here the Roanoke built locomotive meets new fans at Carpenter's. This straight section of the line gives us a good view of the 611 and her 9-car train. 8 cars are wooden coaches, barely a load for the 611 to pull. Just in front of the train is the Groff's Grove picnic area. This is where both trains will pass each other. From here, you can faintly hear the 475's N&W hooter whistle as she comes through the road crossing at Cherry Hill.
We are now entering Groff's Grove. We won't be stopping for passengers, at least not in this direction. However, this is where our 2 operating steam-powered passenger trains will pass each other.
This is the first time in 60 years, maybe more, since these 2 steam engines have operated side by side, doing what they were built to do, hauling passengers and freight, as both of them did in their heyday in Southwest Virginia.
Just up ahead, off to the right-hand side at about the 2 o'clock position.
Leaving Groff's Grove picnic area, the 475 pulls up to a spot at Carpenter's, so everyone can hear the ghost train. Legend has it that the ghosts of the crew and their steam locomotive are over there towards that hill. And when the Strasburg trains stop here and blow their whistle, the ghost train answers back.
No, folks, you just think that's an echo. We actually pay that ghost $27.50 each and every day to blow that whistle back at us. Now, we've never seen it, but of course we know it's out there. After all, it does cash that paycheck every other week. Speaking of ghosts, Carpenter's graveyard is just up ahead on the left.
As the 611 heads back to the Strasburg station, the 475 heads to Lehman Place. This is the end of the run and the turnaround place for the trip. Here the 475 runs around her train to couple up to the other end for the return trip to the station. This is the connection to the outside world for the Strasburg Railroad. This was once the main line of the Pennsylvania Railroad between Lewistown, Harrisburg, Philadelphia, and New York City. Today, it's the route of Amtrak's Keystone service. This is where the 611 entered the Strasburg property on her ferry move from Roanoke. Speaking of the 611, now arriving in the station. One specialized trip for the 611 while in Strasburg was known as the shuttle. Here, the 611 would not change ends on her train. Instead, the crew made a reverse move past the Red Caboose Motel, stopping just short of Cherry Hill. And reminiscent of the Norfolk Southern Steam program days when we performed a photo run-by, having the train back up and roar past the passengers standing trackside. In this case, the crowd would be those standing at the Red Caboose Motel, and a seat on the train by an open window was the place to be. The Red Caboose Motel, a refreshment and lodging place for those visiting the Strasburg Railroad. You can have your own overnight stay in a real caboose, or sit on the front porch of the gift shop and rest a little bit from train chasing. You can have lunch in a real dining car and watch trains from your table. Normally, this place is not crowded, a leisurely setting to relax and sit. But the 611 draws a crowd wherever she goes, and for the running of the shuttle, neither the spectators or the 611 disappointed. Between shuttle trips, visitors could purchase tickets for cab tours of the 611 and blow the famous whistle. With a crew briefing underway, it's time to witness the J's awesome show. Fasten your seatbelt and prepare to ride. As the 611 shuttle comes to a stop, don't let the slow speed represent how the pace of the day went. There were hourly departures to Lehman Place, cab tours of the 611 and of the 475. with the shop firing up number 90 to run the trips as the crowds grew. Here's a look at our Strasburg photo and video scrapbook. For 5 weekends, the largest steam locomotive to visit the oldest continuously operating railroad in the Western Hemisphere came here to the Strasburg Railroad. Along with a reunion of 2 machines that hadn't been around each other for 60 years, and a few old cars as well. For those of us from Roanoke, it was a marvel to watch a whole new crowd who had never been up close to this beautiful machine that always seems to be right there in our backyard for those of us who live in the Roanoke Valley. It's always there. Even if I didn't ride the train, I could always hear it go by my house. So many people worked hard to make this happen. You would be amazed at the collection of paid personnel and volunteers, and who collectively came together. You would be amazed at what every person did to make this happen. This machine is just that, a machine. But why do we place so many human qualities in it? Why does that whistle go right through your soul when you hear it? And why do people come from all over just to see it? And why, through the years, have some people cried when this machine doesn't run? There is a difference between come and go and sit and wait. Which one would you pick? Thanks for watching.